time is 1:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited and read by Rumesh Piris. First, the headlines. The President says the government is prepared to work with the IMF. The Indian Prime Minister reiterates continued support to Sri Lanka. The government to revisit proposed FTA with China. The PMD says unloading of LP gas ships begin today. The President refutes false news reports asking CBSL Governor to step down. The PTA bill to be taken up for debate in Parliament next week. Record earnings from spice exports. In news overseas, Russia-Ukraine talks continue 3 weeks after start of invasion. In sports, it's cricket. Joe Root hits 190 not out and Dan Lawrence 91 as tourists take command in Bridgetown. And now the local news in detail. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said he has decided to work with the International Monetary Fund after examining the advantages and disadvantages. Addressing the nation on Wednesday, he said the government has initiated discussions with the international financial institutions as well as with friendly countries regarding repayment of loan installments. Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said that he understood the sufferings people have experienced over the past 2 months and said he is determined to make tough decisions to find solutions to the present difficulties. The President said he has appointed a National Economic Council and an advisory committee to assist it and that he will constantly monitor the progress. Therefore, he requested to have faith in the actions he will take on behalf of the people. President Rajapaksa requested all citizens to extend their support to the country during these challenging times by limiting the use of fuel and electricity as much as possible. The Finance Minister, Basil Rajapaksa, met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi on Wednesday morning to discuss bilateral matters and further Indian assistance to the island nation. Sri Lanka's High Commissioner to India, Milinda Moragoda, was present at the meeting. It is widely expected that India will clear a further $1 billion emergency financial support that New Delhi and Colombo have been negotiating since the finance minister's last visit to New Delhi early in December. After a gap of 7 years, the government has decided to revisit the proposed free trade agreement with China. The FTA talks were first launched during the 2010-2015 period. The Cabinet Subcommittees on Economic Way Forward, which initiated deliberations under the chairmanship of Foreign Affairs Minister Professor G.L. Pires. Commencing its task, the Cabinet Subcommittees convened the initial meetings with the participation of Cabinet Ministers Bandula Gunawardena, Namal Rajapaksa, Ali Sabri, Ramesh Patirana and Johnston Fernando, who function as the members of the subcommittees. The President's Media Division says that payments have been made for the liquefied petroleum gas vessels anchored in the Colombo port. The Presidential Secretariat said unloading of the gas commenced today and distribution of domestic LP gas will continue throughout the island. The Communications Department of Parliament said the debate on the second reading of the Prevention of Terrorism Amendment Bill is scheduled for March 22nd. The decision was taken at the Business Committee meeting chaired by Speaker Mahinda Yapa Abeyewardena on Wednesday. It was also decided to convene Parliament sessions for 4 days from March 22nd to March 25th next week. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. And we continue with more local news. The Speaker of Parliament, Mahinda Yapa Abeyewardena, endorsed the certificate on the Intellectual Property Amendment Bill, which was taken up for debate on the 8th and passed in Parliament. Products such as Ceylon cinnamon, which have made significant contributions to the Sri Lankan economy, have so far been registered as certificate marks under the subject of trademarks, as there was no specific methodology for registering them as such. Thus, this will enable products such as Ceylon tea, Ceylon cinnamon, Ceylon pepper and Ceylon cashew to register as Sri Lankan geographical indicators, thereby establishing a legal framework to stop counterfeiting under various names. Accordingly, this Act came into effect from yesterday as the Intellectual Property Amendment Act No. 8 of 2022. The Health Ministry says that another 320 persons have tested positive for COVID-19 yesterday as the daily count of new cases continue to rise in the country. This brings the tally of COVID-19 cases registered in the country thus far to 657,134. According to official figures, 619,193 positive cases have recovered. Following the new development, the number of virus-infected persons who are undergoing treatment moved to 21,525. Meanwhile, the death toll stands at 16,416. The second phase of the Diyaniya program, which provides sanitary facilities for girls at schools in remote areas, was held in conjunction with the 2022 Women's Day National Program Rataki Dayaki Loaki Air recently at the Surupaya premises under the patronage of State Minister of Women and Child Development, P.R. Nishanta De Silva. At the request of the State Minister with the sponsorship of the private sector, the Diyaniya program has been fulfilling the sanitary needs of girls at 300 remote schools island-wide since 2021. The program will be further enhanced by adding another 200 schools by 2022 to meet the sanitary needs of girls of all 500 schools throughout the Diyaniya program. And that concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The President's Media Division, issuing a press release today, refuted news reports that the Governor of the Central Bank, Ajit Nivard Cabral, has been requested to step down is completely false. The PMD reiterated that the President had placed his fullest confidence and trust in Governor Cabral and commended his services in responding to the grave economic challenges faced by the country at present. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Live is brought to you by
More prizes, more gains with CIB New Year offers. Valuable gifts for every bill. 20% discount for bank cards until 10th of April. Visit CIB today.
The Labour Department has introduced an online portal that allows any employee to submit labour-related complaints in anonymity. It will enable anyone working in the private or semi-government sector or an employees' union representing them to forward any issues. People can log on to the department's official website through www.labourdepartment.gov.lk and click on Submitting Employment-Related Complaints to make their complaints in all 3 languages. And that came to you in Watchlight. A bulletin of world news follows.
More prizes, more gains with CIB New Year offers. Valuable gifts for every bill. 20% discount for bank cards until 10th of April. Visit CIB today.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
No matter what anyone says, for your lease, visit the Leasing Mahagedara. People's Leasing, Friendly Leasing Mahagedara. More information from the nearest People's Leasing branch.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Moving on to the bulletin of world news, first the headlines. Russia-Ukraine talks continue 3 weeks after start of the invasion. Tsunami alert cancelled after big quake near Fukushima. Nazneen Zaghari-Ratcliffe and Anushe Ashuri arrive in the UK after being freed from Iran. And now the world news in detail. Talks for a ceasefire in Ukraine remain ongoing as civilian casualties mount. The International Court of Justice has ordered Russia to stop its military operations, but the Russians show no sign of pulling out. Russia is still expanding its offensive. It is now aiming at the capital, other cities and areas in the south. Shelling has hit schools and hospitals, leaving Ukrainians to suggest the troops have no regard for civilian life. At the same time, negotiators have suggested progress in recent peace talks. The 2 sides are reportedly discussing a security framework independent of NATO. A 7.3 magnitude earthquake hit eastern Japan late Wednesday night, killing 2 people and injuring over 100 others and cutting power to millions of homes. The quake hit off the coast of Japan's eastern Fukushima prefecture, a region devastated by a powerful quake and tsunami 11 years ago that resulted in a nuclear power plant meltdown. A tsunami advisory was issued after Wednesday's quake for the coastal prefectures of Fukushima and Miyagi, but was lifted this morning. British-Iranian nationals Nazneen Zaghari-Ratcliffe and Anushe Ashuri are back in the UK after being freed from years of Iranian detention. The pair touched down at RAF Bryce Norton in Oxfordshire just after 0100 GMT today. The release came after months of negotiations between the British and Iranian governments. After leaving the plane in good spirits, they met their families in the airport for the long-awaited reunions. Back to the headlines of the world news. Russia-Ukraine talks continue 3 weeks after start of the invasion. Tsunami alert cancelled after big quake near Fukushima. Nazneen Zaghari-Ratcliffe and Anushe Ashuri arrive in the UK after being freed from Iran. And that concludes the bulletin of World News.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
For your wheel lease, visit the Leasing Mahagedara. People's Leasing, friendly leasing Mahagedara. More information from the nearest People's Leasing branch.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Development News is brought to you by... Let's take all out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
The government has decided to call investor proposals to build 2 4-star airport hotels adjoining Mattala Rajapaksa International Airport. Tourism Minister Prasanna Ranatunga on Monday sought cabinet approval to call proposals from investors to construct the 2 4-star class hotels adjoining the airport in a bid to attract tourists. The Government Information Department said 2 land plots have already been recognized at the right side of the terminal building of MRIA for the projects. And that was Development News.
Development News was brought to you by... The coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation, with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928. Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Moving on to sports, it's cricket. Joe Root punished West Indies with yet another century as England took command of the second test on day 1 in Barbados. Root could have been given caught behind on 23 and was dropped on 34, but ended 119 not out his 25th test on and second in as many innings as the tourists closed on 244 for 3. England's ascendancy was checked slightly by the loss of Dan Lawrence to end the day after he compiled a dazzling 91 runs. And that was Sports News.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB You Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Department of Export Agriculture says exports of spices and related products earned a record income of 103 billion rupees last year. The amount of spices and related products exported to earn this income is 65,000 metric tons. Exporting 18,000 metric tons of cinnamon products alone earned 45 billion rupees. The director of the Department of Export Agriculture said there is a high demand for Sri Lankan spices from Europe, USA, Japan and the Middle East. And that was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB You Trust.
Economic News, courtesy of...
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
The Central Bank's Purchasing Managers Index survey released on Wednesday showed both manufacturing and service sectors of Sri Lanka expanded further in February 2022. Manufacturing PMI remained expanded, recording an index value of 52.5 in February 2022. The improvement was mainly attributed to the continued expansion in new orders. An expansion in new orders, particularly in the manufacture of food and beverage, was witnessed in February 2022 ahead of the Sinhala and Hindu New Year season. And that was Economic News. The weather report follows.
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
The Weather Report.
And finally, on to the weather report. The Department of Meteorology says fairly cloudy skies can be expected in the central, southern, western, Sabaragamuwa, Uva and eastern provinces. Showers or thundershowers will occur at few places in the western, Sabaragamuwa, southern and Uva provinces and in the Nuwara and Kandy districts in the afternoon. The weather forecast predicts mainly fair weather to prevail elsewhere over the island. And that was the weather report. And to end this news broadcast, a recap of the main news headlines. The President says the government is prepared to work with the IMF. The Indian Prime Minister reiterates continued support to Sri Lanka. The government to revisit proposed FTA with China. The PMD says unloading of LP gas ships begin today. The President refutes false news reports asking CBSL Governor to step down. The PTA bill to be taken up for debate in Parliament next week. Record earnings from spice exports. And in news overseas, Russia-Ukraine talks continue 3 weeks after start of invasion. And in sports, it's cricket. Joe Root hits 190 not out and Dan Lawrence 91 as tourists take command in Bridgetown. And with that, we conclude this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Back to Geetanjali to keep you entertained this lunchtime.